Welcome to the Dragon's Tome. This is episode 145, issue 145 Dragon Magazine. We're going every Dragon Magazine until we stop, as we now say. My name's Rob.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Chopper.
And we're here to talk about this 145. The cover is by Ken Whiting, and it's called Keep Away. Get it? Keep Away. It's a keep. And it's Keep Away because there's skulls everywhere. It's a cool picture. It's a little lopsided. The knight's a little low on the art, but it is cool.
The gate has a swallowing face.
Much like Castle Grayskull.
Ooh. I am the power.
It's not a very evil-looking castle, though. It's actually kind of friendly-looking.
It has the vines on the side and there's crows, but
it looks like an elf lives there because it's got like green roof and it's white-walled. It should be black and evil-looking, but I guess the skulls kind of tip it as being a place not friendly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's bad people's skulls, though. You never know.
Yeah.
You could Marie Kondo that sitch and be living in a nice, quaint castle.
Do you really? Easy. Do these skulls bring you joy?
If not, I'm into the chasm.
I'm off the side. But yeah, it's a fine cover. Anything else to say about the cover?
It's a fine how do you do.
It matches the theme of the magazine, which I always appreciate. It's the small things that like that, the way you go, okay, well, I know what I'm getting.
Yep.
It's right there.
Yep, that's true. I want a magazine about castles. You're going to get a magazine about castles. Speaking of castles, Jack, what's your first article?
Okay, speaking of castle doctrine, if we could please go to page 20.
Holding down the fort. This is one of mine also.
There's so few articles that are not kind of the same, so we're going to have some overlap.
For sure.
Holding down the fort. The premise is that you've reached a level in which, via the rules, you have yourself a keep, castle, whatever. You're a paladin. You put in the hard work. You've earned yourself your keep. These are events that happen through like a tables of random encounters that start pretty minor and end pretty catastrophically, and it's just to spice up what would otherwise be I don't know,
kind of nothing in the side thing that you do in the game that really doesn't influence anything.
Yeah, like a anticlimactic, because at some point you're like, oh, I get my keep, and then it's nothing afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, you can start with like, hey, your food stores get rotten, to like, hey, there's a
werewolves,
a small war. Yeah, like and it describes each one in kind of not a blurb, not going into a lot of detail. It looks kind of like a suggestion as
like a plot hook, kind of where you're like, hey, this is what DM could throw at you. Yeah,
exactly. So used judiciously, this would be very interesting. Like,
it's also, you could use it if you're having people who work in the castle. You might not even have to run the castle.
Yeah.
To have this. You could just have random things happening around you.
And in my opinion and my experience, if you give all your characters a place to hang out at an HQ, that's always the best.
Yep.
Everyone kind of likes that. The whole party living in a place, give them their rooms and whatnot, and then
place to put your stuff.
Yeah, and then give them something to care about. And,
look, all these books. I got to store them somewhere.
Yeah. So that would be.
There's also a beautiful full color picture by our friend Clyde Caldwell in the middle here with a blue dragon or a black.
Yep.
I think that's a blue dragon or a black dragon.
It's a black dragon.
Getting about to get a rock in the head.
Yep.
Friend of the show.
Big rock. Long time listener.
We can't confirm that he's listened, to be honest, but we know he's a friend of the show.
Yeah.
Jack, you're being honest for once? What the hell?
Oh, I forgot my place. I apologize.
I think it's a black dragon.
Yeah, it's got some blue highlights.
Yeah.
Blick.
It's all the evil dragons, as good as the green one behind him.
Well, blues are evil too.
Yeah, but they're
more blue, I guess. This guy's
yeah,
definitely more subtle. He's black. Yeah.
burning gray.
Anything else to say about this one, Jock?
No, it speaks for itself. I can see the allure of using this when your characters have reached that level, and it's not. If used judiciously, it would add a little spice, but it's not going to be like the focus of your campaign.
Or it could be a nice plot hook to jump off onto something else.
Some of these you could like, we got to investigate why X happened, and then you could lead them into.
Yeah, for sure. Pat, what's your first article?
Right, let's go backwards to page 16.
16. This is another one of my articles.
Castle here, castle there. This is a nice random fortress generator.
Yeah, it's addition to the one that's in the
DM's
DMG.
Guide.
Yep, first edition.
Yeah, so this gives you expanded more charts. Expanded the Castle Masters chart and added one for
Orient Adventures one. Yeah,
settings. Yeah, but it gives you a couple charts to roll on to sketch out a castle that you might need to pop up in the middle of something. It's a little tool, nice little tool. I mean, I don't think there's much to say other than it's just, if you need to, if your party happens to be traveling to the woods and they come up on a castle or someplace you need to put them up in.
Yep.
Or
well, you'll find out. You roll and you see who the master is.
Yeah.
If it's
give them a destination, and there it is. I mean, you can even roll the settlement adjacent to the castle.
Yep.
Things like that. So it's a nice little tool.
I think we're all suckers for a good random generation table.
Yeah. Yes. Pretty much.
I think if you've watched the show enough, you know that if there's a random generation table, we'll choose it. So.
He does say this is for the first edition D&D, seeing as the DM's Guide is coming out either next month or this month, right?
Yeah, it's I think next month.
Next month, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember if there's. I'm pretty sure there's more of this in the new DMG, but I don't remember. So there's also a splat book coming out for castles too, which probably has all this stuff in it. So. To me, we're gonna go down to might as well go to 24. We'll stay in the castles.
Yep. That's my other article.
Well, this one's just a bunch of strongholds, pre-made ones that you could just use. I love maps.
And three pre-made that you don't have to spend time drawing out.
Yep, it's just all there for you. And yeah, super useful because you never know when you just need a random castle. You don't have to use all the stuff that they have, but I need a castle map. Oh, here's a bunch of them right here. So,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I have not much more to say about it. Do you have anything else more to say about this one, Pat?
No, I mean it's mostly the castles pre-generated, and then in this article he names them.
Yeah, he gives a lot of backstory to them. Yeah.
But again, if you're just using this as as it's supposed to be, just different floor plans, you don't draw a castle, you don't have to use the background or the name. You just use the floor plan.
I definitely, as a kid, would design lots of castles. So
yeah,
both are very helpful.
As I'm older, I would gravitate more to this. As I was younger, I would probably I can draw my own.
Yeah,
I was more spit and vinegar back then.
But yeah, if you just need a random thing, it's great.
Yeah. If you needed a map, there's a map. If you needed a pre-made castle, it's there also. This would be very helpful to have in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm. For faux show. Jack, we're going quick here. Jack, do you have another article?
If we could go to page 30, please.
This is my other article.
I don't want to alarm anyone, but this involves castles. So
if the castle heavy episode for some reason,
if you are triggered by big stone structures, please look away.
Yes. This is yeah.
Your home is your castle, and there's more to castle owning than meets the eye. Now, I would say, remember early on in Dragon Magazine where there was like a historical, there'd be like weapons and stuff.
Because what was the other magazine that they merged with? Little Wars magazine.
Yes.
That was more historical, and they merged them, and there was some articles at the beginning where they were both. Yeah.
Where it's almost like an educational. This starts with why castles, what castles, how castles. and that sounds flippant for me to say, but it's true. It names some of the things you wonder why.
What's a windlass?
Yeah, yeah. So if you're looking at different buildings and going, oh, that's the Great Hall, that's the and it goes from walls to like what a bailey is, and it ends with how to defeat castles. It starts, like, okay, defense, then sappers and stuff to defeat, how to defeat. It is a educational. You would take this book out of the library to learn about castles.
Well,
And
I have a funny story about that, Jack. When
oh no,
I was in college, I did construction engineering technology, and I had to write a paper all about castles. And if I had seen this, I would have just stolen this because it's exactly what I wrote for my my thing. So yeah, I'm pretty sure we have the same bibliography. Even like this is literally what I had to write for college. So it's
you mean you would have used this as a source?
yeah, source. Like I don't think my professor would ever known that Dragon Magazine exists, let alone that I could steal from it. So yes, a source. It would have saved me a lot of time. That's all I'm saying. Patricia Cunningham Reed, you're lucky because you almost got plagiarized.
Yeah, yeah. Respectfully,
Oh, yeah. Well,
consensually plagiarized.
Yeah, I would hope I would get an A+.
Or else she would get a sternly
Stern letter.
worded letter. Hey, Patricia,
Yeah,
up your game.
yeah.
I got an A- on
I
this one.
can't be
92.
writing stuff down that's not going to be A plus material.
I do have a funny story about that. In high school, we had to write poems, and at the time, I wasn't a poem writer. Later, I wrote poems, but so instead, I just transcribed some Black Sabbath lyrics,
I
and
remember that. Yeah.
and yeah, Ozzy only got a C. That's all I'm saying. And in class, they're like, "Could you stand up and recite it?" Because they thought it was so good. And I looked around, I was like, "Would any of these people know a Black Sabbath lyric if they heard it?" And I was like, "No, I'm too embarrassed. I can't."
No, too embarrassed.
Someone would have outed you right then.
Yeah,
and
they'd
there.
be like, "Hey, wait a second," or I would have started singing it instead. So
Yeah.
Well, you should have read it in the style of William Shatner, and no one would have got it.
yeah, iambic pentameter. I should have. Yep,
Then
Shakespeare it up.
I will admit to cribbing. We were writing poetry, and I was much younger than high school. I don't remember what grade, but it was supposed to be a riddle, and I cribbed from The Hobbit,
Obviously.
one of them, but I didn't. It wasn't the exact, and the answer was smoke. But the teacher had written a bunch of possible answers, like with question marks. And I stood up and I was like, okay. And I read it and I was confident that I had changed it enough. And then when he said, okay, what's the answer? I looked down and I read his first one. So I read the wrong one and I was like, oh, his son. And I remember it to this day. And then what I should have done was, oh, I'm sorry. I just read the wrong one. But I was like, yeah, that's what I meant. And I sat down and that was it.
Oh, good times. Yep, that's what I meant.
That's what my answer is. And I got into my little desk.
That's funny. Anyways, we'll move on. Whose turn is it next? Anybody else have any more articles? We've gotten through each other's articles. Is it your turn?
39.
39.
39.
Bizarre of the Bizarre.
Bizarre of the Bizarre. This one is Castle Magical Items. And when I say Castle Magical Items, items that you can use to decorate in and around your castle home, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a neat idea. Something out of the box.
Yeah, like you get Basin of the Angel. One of my favorites was the Downlower's Dungeon Chains.
A Mirror of Travel would be pretty damn useful.
Yep. There was another one too. There was
the arcs. The
arcs. The arcs of teleportation would have been cool. But there's just a whole list of, I think it's maybe 10 or 15, maybe even 20 different items.
Yeah, it's real fun.
It brings the fantasy element to what is otherwise a pretty historically mundane thing. So yes, you've got your
Yeah.
castle, but you're living in a high fantasy land.
Oil of Eternal Flame is a good one too. That your lamps will stay lit for 24 hours.
It's funny that mirror travel that was in D&D movie, wasn't it? They used that.
Was it Mirror of Travel? Did they call it the Mirror of Travel?
No, but it was the same idea. They had that mirror that they
okay.
put in the. Remember they did it in the caravan to steal the thing. No, do you remember this?
No.
Did I imagine this?
I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to think. I was reading the.
Don't gaslight me, guys.
I was reading the Mirror of Travel to see if it was actually the same kind of.
It's same idea, yeah. But you just have
when that woman puts her finger in Timothy Dalton's tea and the look he gives, he was chewing up scenery. I really enjoyed seeing him.
I'm sure if I watched it again, I'd appreciate it more. But at the time, I was a little, salty about it. The Paladin was hilarious, though. Anyways, anything else to say about the magic items?
No, just straightforward, nice little magic items. I mean, not much to say about them.
It's back to me, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
We're going back to page 7. We never did do the editor. Good old Roger E. Moore. He talks about the difference between role-playing articles and role-playing articles. Role as in R-O-L-E and role as in R-O-L-L. And he says that there's way more role-playing as in R-O-L-L. Like, gotta be very specific here. Because it's a lot easier to write those kind of articles where it's about the mechanics. Where it's articles to write how to be a better DM or how to be a better player are a lot harder to write. And he says we've had very few of them. But I feel like lately we've had quite a few of those articles. And even over the time, like, he really underplays how much there is those articles. Which I found were strange. Because we have had a lot of articles about how to play. Just, I think, last issue we had one.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess they have a lot more of the mechanical ones, but maybe it's also, once again, confirmation bias we were talking about before. Maybe it's we personally choose the role-playing ones a lot more. So maybe that's why we feel like there's more of them. But
he is correct. Like, this is a resource for finding mechanics first and foremost. So, like, you would want to get as much information about like things, rules, like the factual stuff, the nebulousness about like, maybe your gaming group does this or maybe your DM does that, would have far less appeal to most people. So I can understand why he, as the editor and probably the staff, are kind of like, well, we need more monsters in there than we do another article about when you're DMing.
Yeah.
Tell someone to bring chips, like whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's only so much you can say too in that subject. Like you said, there's how much new can you bring to it. But the other thing at the very end, he says that Larry Elmore is ending Snarf Quest and moving back to Kentucky. Well, another one of the big guys bites the dust at TSR. He's no longer employed at TSR. And don't worry about Elmore. He does go on to draw lots of magic cards and probably made a shit ton of money off that, so you'll be all right. But yeah, that's a he does that as a little like, we'll miss him, but that's a major story. Like, more TSR people jumping ship, so, or getting fired, mattering how you feel about a certain owner of TSR at this point, or a CEO. So I thought that was a little interesting, and I don't remember Snarf Quest ending this early, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back too. I don't remember anything that quickly either.
Yeah, so unless maybe he comes back and does more, maybe he gets bored and sends more in, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's got to be, because I've had some of the magazines we've had so far, but I haven't even gotten to where my subscription started, I don't think. And there had to have been Snarf Quest.
That's what I think,
because I read Snarf Quest.
Yeah, so that's what I'm curious. So, unless we just read it and eventually it's like, it's not there anymore. I didn't even notice. Like with Wormy, I thought Wormy lasted a lot longer too. So who knows? That's my last article, I think. Anybody else got any more articles?
I got one more.
Excellent. Where's your last article?
Page 78. I'm surprised none of you guys didn't pick this one.
It's just all the different facial expressions for the. I thought Jack was going to choose this one, actually.
Yeah, so this one is a little painting tutorial or slight instruction or guideline, however you want to call it, on how to paint emotions on uh,
Miniatures.
figures' faces. It does say that the figure has to have a fairly well sculpted face for you to be able to pull this off.
Yeah.
But it talks about where you would highlight and where you put shadows to do the different kinds of emotions like anger, happiness, sadness, all that thing like that. So I thought it was a very cool little article on how to put emotion on your figures.
By Zoe Bell Hurst.
Yeah.
Everybody always says, "Oh, D&D is it's all young white men." It's like, how many articles have been by women in these things? Like there's
quite a few.
There's tons
actually,
of female players out there, even in '89. So don't rewrite the script.
In my opinion, that was never the case. It's a fun straw man to put out there. Finally, we're going to take over where we were never allowed. Come on.
Yeah.
You're making that up. Stop.
Well, it's they.
I wouldn't say they weren't ruling it, but I'm just saying it wasn't the albatross that people think it is. I mean, there are more women in now than before, sure, but it wasn't like you couldn't find a woman to play D&D back.
Well, I think what it was maybe in game stores. Like I wouldn't want to go in some game stores; they're so snotty, and I think that's a different thing, right? Like so, a lot of women feel like in game. I know for comic book stores too, this is true. They don't feel like they're welcome there, but I think a lot of people aren't welcome to those places unless you know them, right?
I mean, but there's truth. There is truth to the quote unquote misogyny of role playing and gaming in general.
No gaming group except for when in high school, just my friends that would play after that Rob was also a part with. Every other gaming group I've ever been in it wasn't 50-50, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
And I'm an old man. I've been playing for forever, so I never saw that, but I never played in a game store. Now, I bet if I walked up to a table of people playing at a game store, I don't know if I'd be welcomed any more than anyone else.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of other, like miniature gaming, I think it's totally a guys kind of game thing. So I think that gets grouped in with role-playing a bit, and I don't think that's true. Role-playing has always been pretty free range for everybody, but because you get to play whatever you want. You can play a girl, you can play a guy, you can be whatever you want in role-playing. So I think a lot, especially back then when it wasn't so open to be different, it allowed you to be different in a safe place, right? So
yeah.
That's, I think, was appealing to a lot of outsiders. So, anyways, that has nothing to do with drawing faces on miniatures. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Anything to say about drawing faces on miniatures other than it's impossible because miniatures are so goddamn small?
Yeah,
it's really not. I mean, if you know how to shade, and as I perused it, I was thinking, okay, this is fairly doable with shading and shadowing.
Well, in large strokes, not in any detail. Like this person has 6 different shadows to put on a face and 5 different highlights. But
if you do it correctly, I mean, I was looking at some of these figures in what page was it?
The only one I think that looks really good is that Asian wizard on the very first photograph A. He looks.
They actually do a really good job of making the beholder look very angry with the highlights and the shades too.
How much is sculpt though? That's what I always say. It's hard to say. But anyways, it's a good article anyways with just in general teaching people how to paint better. And we've seen since we've started that paint jobs have gotten way better than when we first started seeing paint jobs in these magazines.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
Yeah. Fun. Any more articles? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? Sold American. Okay, let's go to ads. I got tons of ads because I had so many ads that some of these ads will be in the next magazine that I just skipped to the next magazine with these ones. So,
Jesus, you keep.
Did I smack it again? That's for all you headphones listeners.
The booth saying that they've heard a gonk.
Jack, what's your first ad? Or probably only ad because you're a bad person.
My first ad is for not flailing arms. When you
I talk with my hands.
When you speak, you do not need to gesticulate wildly.
I think the mic's a little closer to me than usual.
Jack wants page 108.
Jack wants page 13.
13.
You son of a.
This is one of mine too. You have obviously.
Obviously, Shadowrun. A teaser ad
Mm-hmm.
coming from FASA, the game that we all know and love, but is at this time just teased with where man meets magic and machine, and
Yep.
it's got the Pacific indigenous S with the like nice
I don't think that's
line
ever
art.
changed. I think that's stayed
No,
the same.
that's been their symbol the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's got everything you need to go. Well, what's going on
I wonder if
here?
the first edition book, the very first printing books, came out in this black cover, because that would have been an awesome looking cover.
The Traveler was doing black covers way before this, so that would have been.
No,
really
I'm
cool.
just saying for Shadowrun, because
No.
the first edition cover I got is the alleyway scene with
It's Larry Elmore, I
Decker.
believe. Isn't it Larry Elmore?
Yeah, when they're by a bank machine.
Yeah. That was the cover for the first couple editions.
But I see this and I think Spinal Tap. It's so black. There's none blacker.
None more black. Yep.
Except for this scan, which is clearly didn't care for the gloss
care for the
black
blackness.
of the coated card stock or paper stock.
Yeah.
So we now know 89.
Yep. It's because what's it say? When's it coming out? It's coming out this summer, so it's like coming out very soon since this is May.
I think it comes out in June.
We were just talking about Cyberpunk a few episodes ago, and everybody was always like, "Oh, Shadowrun, it's rips off Cyberpunk." But question is, at this point, Cyberpunk wasn't that popular. So by the time Shadowrun comes out, I think it's right on the same zeitgeist. It might not.
I wouldn't call it ripped off, but it does take a different take on that.
But it's all Cyberpunk. Like it's all based on like hardware and William Gibson novels. Like that's what it's based on. But everybody always assumed, since Cyberpunk came out a good year beforehand, that was the influence of Shadowrun. But seeing how it is, I don't think it is. I think they probably were coming out at the same time anyways.
Yeah, I think, and the Shadowrun at this point in time also becomes a little more popular than Cyberpunk.
For sure. Shadowrun is huge. Shadowrun's probably more popular than BattleTech at this time when it comes out. Like it had an NES.
It was a big IP for them.
Yeah, like huge. So yeah, I think Shadowrun. I knew
Shadowrun was my RPG to run in my game group. That was my.
Well, we played in high school. We played tons of Shadowrun, or after high school maybe, but yeah.
Between Shadowrun and BattleTech, FASA becomes an unstoppable juggernaut.
Yeah, they become like number 2. Yeah.
To this day, rules the.
Well, not to this day, because.
it went teats up.
Eventually, everything has its time.
Yes, dust to dust, wheels, dust in the wind situation. But for a time.
Yeah, for a time, this was it. Yep, for sure. Pat, what is your next ad?
Well, I'm going to do the one fun ad I was going to do, but because Jack took my ad, so we're going to go to page 108.
108.
Oh.
So Dungeon Masters Guide, second edition.
This guy.
Never saw that ad before.
Look, it's all new second edition.
Yep, we never saw DMG version. We saw the Player's Handbook version.
It's available in June, and if you look below it, it says the Player's Handbook is available now.
It is that iconic cover. Both of them are quite iconic covers. I have them here somewhere. I dig them out sometime, but Jack just found all his. Yeah.
Yeah, I dug all mine out, and
Did
it's
you really?
a shocking amount.
Yeah,
Did you go to Grant's house?
I sent you a picture of it.
Yeah, you sent the picture, and he said, "Look, he's a hoarder too." So. Yeah, you have a lot of stuff, more than I remember you having. So
it's a shocking amount. I
a lot of allowance went into that.
Well, at this point, I was working, which is the problem was the closest game store was a half an hour,
at least
45 minutes away, and
didn't drive.
A lot of it was from a used bookstore. It was a labor of love to get all that.
I do remember my friend, and I know I've talked about him a bit because he's was a integral part of our D&D group. But Don, my friend Don, RIP. I remember when he got out of the Navy, he got like whatever they big giant check when you leave,
Mm-hmm.
and he literally bought all the second edition books,
Every
including
book.
all the handbooks.
Wow.
When we started, because before he got discharged from the Navy, he came to visit his brother who was playing with us, and I was in for the weekend. He played a game, and
He was all
he hadn't
in.
played second edition either, and he was all in at the time. He knew he was getting it out. So then when he finally got out, like maybe 3 or 4 months later, he'd come back, and next time we played, we had all these books. Like, where are these guys? I'm done, bought them.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, between everybody, all of our friends, we definitely bought a lot of these books. So
Yeah.
it is a good time.
All right, Rob, just knock it all mile out because that's it for me and my ads.
Jack, do you have any more ads?
No.
Okay, we'll go to 54 first. This is BattleTech 20-year update. They're bringing the world up to 3050. Pat, you know what happens in 3050? Oh, didn't I say
No.
54? Page 54. I said that.
The Succession War has been over for 20 years.
3050. Guess who's coming?
Clans.
This is the a vast amount of Starly technology appears from strange quarters. That's the clans.
The Comstar unveils a huge mech army to garrison thousands of its installations throughout the inner sphere.
Yeah, it's the clans are coming. So this is the update to bring the world up to from 3025 to 3050. So it's coming along, and more novels obviously for that. And then also on page 107 is another BattleTech one. It's Battle Troops. This is the man-to-man combat in BattleTech universe. This is actually, instead of playing mechs, you play people fighting mechs or each other. But yeah, it's another box set from FASA. This is when I realized I was like, Battle Troops already, and I looked at the list of all the things. And I'm like, oh crap! They did like there's so many that they haven't done ads for because they've done about 30 or 40 books at this point. So they were prolific, the FASA people, like just pumping them out. I can't imagine putting out that many books, but they did, and they all must have sold because they kept going. Like Jack said, they became a juggernaut. So,
yep.
It says it's a box set, and it doesn't say. Is it miniatures or is it a role playing game or is it a?
No,
I think it's a role playing game.
No, it's more it's like a chit game almost. It's like there's not miniatures yet. They do make miniatures eventually for it, but they at this point it was just pretty much little chits that represent the people.
Oh.
Yeah, it's part of like you can use it with BattleTech too. Like you can use it in conjunction also. It never really took off. Like they don't really do it like this anymore, so they don't any troop to troop, they just add it into BattleTech, so.
You mean in a world of giant stompy robots where you can live out your piloting fantasies?
Why would you want to play dice? Yeah.
Yeah, to be a grunt running around as minuscule, insignificant fleas at their feet.
Yeah. I wonder why it didn't take off, right? Yeah. That's true. They do make one called Clan Troops, which I have this one. I don't have Clan Troops because that came out much later, and it adds to it. But otherwise, that is it. Anything else to say about this whole magazine? We had a quick one because we all had the same articles, so
it was very castle heavy. There's only so much you can say about castles.
Yeah, I chose everyone except for the Bazaar as castle articles. All the other features, there was nothing really to talk about. So yeah. Anyways, if you have anything else to say about this magazine or in general about castles, if you plagiarized from Ozzy Osbourne in your life, please comment below.
And Tolkien.
Lord Tolkien. Cribbed from Tolkien.
I'm trying to think, did I plagiarize any song lyrics for... I never took a poetry class.
It was part of my English class, unfortunately. But yes. Generally, I did well in that class. I just didn't write poetry when I was 15 or 14, so... anyways. Yeah. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your famous artists like Clyde Caldwell and Larry Elmore. Mention it to Ed Greenwood that Jack slags him off all the time.
Long-time listener, long-time friend.
He's the unofficial fourth member of the podcast. Like, how would he not know who I am?
It's true. And I did play with a bunch of money near him, so he must know me. Anyways, yeah, we'll be at Gen Con when this comes out, or maybe even finish Gen Con when this comes out. So hope we saw you there. If not, next year. There's always next year.
Yes.
Until then, I've been Rob.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Chopper.
See ya.
Bye-bye.